purpose of hypnosis is to resolve subconscious conflicts. So, Derek, it's the things that hover beneath the surface of our awareness, right, that
Mm,
are keeping us stuck. And so there's so many ways to there's many, many different methods or ways that a hypnotist or even a spiritual coach can help people access the subconscious mind. And it doesn't have to be with your eyes closed, contrary to popular belief. But I do help my clients learn self hypnosis and mystical meditation techniques. And here's why.
Welcome, Amy, to Cura Medicina. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much, Derek. Great to connect with you today.
It's great to have you here too. I'm so excited. I would love for you to start just telling the world what you're about and how you describe yourself. And yeah,
Yeah,
let's hear it all.
absolutely, Derek. Again, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Amy Marohn. I'm a spiritual hypnotist, medium, metaphysical healer, and the name of my company is Sensorium Hypnosis. And I offer in-person sessions as well as virtual. And we're coming up on year 10, Derek. So
Wow,
it's been a minute. I've been doing this work. Yeah.
amazing. And so, can you just unravel those concepts for people a little bit if they're not familiar with what they are and,
Sure.
like hypnosis, mediumship, and all those?
Yeah, absolutely. Dirk, I'll dip in really quickly to what brought me from mainstream employment in the corporate realm and world into this more spiritual work that I do. Over 10 years ago now, I had a near death experience
Mm,
following chronic illness, and my soul left my body, and I say I crossed the threshold. I heard a voice, and the voice asked me, if I was ready to leave the earth plane. I had been suffering for a while with pretty debilitating physical symptoms and severe autoimmune issues, along with a condition called dysautonomia, which dysregulated my entire autonomic nervous system. And so, even though my physical body was exhausted and I was indeed ready to let go, in that moment, my being or essence was downloaded the emotional impact that my early departure from the earth plane would have on my son, who was young at the
mm,
time, and my family. And in that moment, I made a conscious decision. I'm not done. I have a son to take care of, and this voice that came through said, "Well, if we send you back, you'll live more intentionally." Derek, I had no idea what that meant. I do remember just making a conscious decision. Soul went back into my body as quickly as it left, sat up, turned on the light, and my life has been the most amazing and wild adventure since then. So, fast forward, this same spirit voice
wait. I wanna talk a little bit
wrote
more
back.
about this. Yeah, before we fast forward.
Yeah,
So, I've read some near-death experiences
yeah.
and, they're really many of them are spiritual awakenings, let's call
Mhm.
them what they
Yeah,
are. And so
agreed.
did you have, like, the light experience too? A lot of people they see a bright light or they're in a very bright room. Did you have any of those experiences?
But, Derek, mine was quite different.
Mm,
What I remember of that experience was a complete absence of pain, which was, I mean, I mean, it's beyond words to describe, the lightness that I felt. What I can say is I felt the momentum or speed in which my soul left my body was honestly pretty startling, and my experience, was more clairaudient and clairsentient. So I could hear thoughts being communicated to me. I could feel emotions, sensations moving through me. However, I really did not, I mean, there was the absence of fear also. I felt completely embraced by a very loving and powerful grounding energy.
Mm.
So there was no hesitancy or wondering, no time even to wonder, where am I? And no light. I mean, I really, perhaps, I mean, who knows? People who, oftentimes you hear of, people having these experiences, during a heart attack, or they're on the surgery table and they have an unexpected reaction to anesthesia, or the surgeon encounters something unexpected, right? And people may flatline and be gone for 7 minutes. Mine, I many trips to the hospital, but this experience was at home. I was alone
Mm.
in bed, and so I again, my experience was really very um, auditory. It was like mental telepathy, this incredible wisdom coming through, and then being able to sense, the future impact of my early departure on my family, which was very otherworldly to me. And then the events to follow really validated for me that I had crossed this threshold into a very, very sacred space. So I
And
hope
when you
that.
came yeah,
Mhm,
that's beautiful. That really I can feel the whole thing. When you came back
mhm,
in, I mean, what you described is really, you know, feels like the soul, like you had some kind of recognition of your soul, and you embodied your soul in a way. I guess we could say that. I mean, the soul embodies us, but I think
mhm,
there are some moments when we embody the soul, and it sounds to
mhm,
me, no pain, like you
mhm.
left the physicality
Yeah,
of your humanness for a
mhm.
moment. And when you came back, did you did you instantly know, oh, that was something really special, or did it take a little time to understand what had happened to you?
Sure, sure, and a little bit of both, right? I understood, that there was this, communication with the higher realms. Um, I didn't I didn't know at the time how transformational
Mm.
that encounter, spiritual awakening, would be until the days to follow. And I'll share, as I had said earlier in our interview, my experience with spirit was and near death was clairaudient and clairsentient. It turns out, I mean, those are my strongest connections to the spirit realm until recently. And then, the voice, I'll just call it, for purposes of illustration, the voice then told me, in the days to follow, I would be going back to school. Apparently 7 years of college wasn't enough, and that spirit had a lot more faith in me than I had in myself, Derek, because this was not a spontaneous healing. I came back to the same struggling body, although, this soul upgrade and this connection with spirit was going to give me, a quiet strength and energy to move through the next seasons of my life. A few days later, after I was told I'd be going back to school, then they got even more, um, uh, directive and
Mm,
told me that I was going to go back to school to be a hypnotist. And Derek, that was pretty wild because, uh, I had never seen a hypnotist. I had never known a hypnotist, and I never even just randomly out of curiosity, typed into the search engines, training programs for I mean, it just wasn't even on my radar. So I understood the power of this voice in guiding me was coming through me and certainly not from me. And it was that same voice that I heard on
mm,
the other side. So it's not that in retrospect, it's not that I was just dropped back into my body. I would be divinely guided in the path ahead. I really it's interesting, even though I had no idea how I would have the physical strength to get through, it's a relatively short period, training time. I didn't question the voice, and I didn't question, um, the validity of the path at all. I didn't even stop to wonder, well, maybe a few times, how I'm gonna have the mental, emotional, physical fortitude to work in any capacity. Because prior to this, I had left my condition, um, really forced my hand at leaving, enjoyable, corporate comfortable corporate role. I had been through a divorce. I had not in the not so distant past just bought a home. My mother moved out here from New York. I mean, there were and then I had a son to raise, and I knew at the time I would be doing the majority, if not all of, raising my son on my own. So, but I forged ahead and, I I began to heal on so many levels over time as I practiced my work, and spirit continued to weave in other tools that would benefit me and the people who sought my help.
amazing. And what was your spiritual orientation before the event?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Derek, as you know, I grew up Catholic, 9 years in a Catholic school. I don't have any trauma related to religion, of my youth, which I know a lot of people find remarkable. But it just seems, for whatever reason, the order of nuns, whose care I was placed in my early beginnings were lovely. I mean, just the kindest, gentlest. I mean, everything you would hope a person who was following that path would be. But I must admit, even at 8 or 9 years old, to question, religious dogma, even though I felt a very deep and strong connection to source, my understanding of source seemed to be, quite different, from what was being taught in the texts. And I looking back, I had a very strong affinity to music, and melodies seemed to come through me quite easily. Now, at 8 or 9 years old, I didn't recognize this as unusual in any way. All I knew is, with very little training, very little discipline, I would sit down at the piano and plunk out these incredible melodies that existed in my head that later in life would come to me in my dreams. And so I do feel like I had this deep soul connection, as many of us do, but I had an awareness of this deep connection at a very early age. And I also knew at a very young age I was being called to serve, others, to bring love and light and comfort. And while other kids in the class were, studying math and science, I was having these dreams and fantasies of moving to Africa and taking care of children and orphanages, and that's just where my head was at. So most of the time I wasn't, grounded in the present. I went into this crazy dream sequence and it kinda lived in my own parallel universe, and I know that was frustrating for my parents and certainly frustrating for the teachers, but I also feel like um, some of my music instructors really understood me and, saw my musical leanings and were able to, work with me, meet me at that level and kind of nurture some of my interests.
Beautiful. Do you still are you still connected to music today?
It's so interesting, and I bet there's a lot of, you know, musical people out there who lament the fact that life gets in the way of being. I have a beautiful baby grand piano that sits in the downstairs of my home, and I don't visit it nearly enough, and Derek, that's mostly just because at this in this season of my life, I'm really called to um, give as much of my time and my love to my clients and the
Mm,
workshops that I host, and um, you know, just be more present to others in this season.
that's beautiful. I'm sure your musicality comes through your work and, through the
Yeah.
creativity and all that you offer. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us what, um, I mean, for people who don't know what hypnosis is, I've done past life
Uh-huh.
regression hypnosis,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was really powerful and really beautiful.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, what's your offering or
Yeah.
what's your type, if you will?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What do I do with hypnosis? That's a valid
yeah.
question. Because now, I mean, so many people in the healing arts, the goal is always to learn something and then make it your own, right? Infuse
Mm,
your own soul energy into something, to allow spirit to move through us in how our gifts are expressed or used. But also along the way, we learn so much from those we work with. And so, in the very beginning, like many hypnotists, you're right, it's very script based, right? You come come to a hypnotist, the most common things that, would be smoking and weight loss and anxiety and, phobias, fear of driving or bridges, whatever, all those things that most people think of right away when it comes to hypnosis. And I got very, very bored with the mainstream iteration of hypnosis. And I also recognized, for some things like that, mainstream or standard hypnosis can work very, very well. But still, about 6 months to a year into my practice, I realized, boy, spirit is moving through me in powerful ways, in energies, and I really just let spirit take the helm, and thus the birth of spiritual hypnosis. Spirit was, prodding me and poking me to ask my clients the deeper questions, like, what is your soul's purpose? What are the lessons and teachings and, um, patterns or themes, recurrent patterns and themes that keep cropping up in your life? And what wisdom can be extrapolated from that? And so I felt very, very passionate about helping people understand who they are as a soul, as a spiritual energy. And so, initially people come, with, their challenge. There's usually classic or mainstream hypnosis is about, releasing a behavior or maybe even a self-limiting belief. But, spiritual hypnosis is a lot more transformative. What I came to realize over time, Derek, is a complete paradigm shift. Is that, I truly believe that the answers lie within you, and that, um, my role in the work that I do is more that of a coach or a guide in people better understanding not only root causes, but what is their truth? What is the wisdom that's coming from their soul that then helps them piece together solutions or formulas for their life and their challenges that resonate best with the most authentic version of themselves. So, I do also believe that my role is to help others ignite the healer within themselves. So it's less about what I'm doing for or to my clients, and it's much more about what I'm empowering them to do for
Mm,
themselves.
beautiful. So, just so I understand, when you use hypnosis to go to bring your clients into this state, is it
Mhm.
that the subconscious is less active? So what
Mm.
is the what is the um because you and I could have a conversation without hypnosis,
Mhm.
and all of my traumas and defenses and
Mhm.
patterns are hopefully with the work I've done, they're not that active, but normally
Right.
they're
Right.
kind of in the mix somewhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so what I'm sensing, or what I perceive, is that in a hypnotic state there's more of an ability to get at those questions, like what is your
Mhm.
soul's purpose,
Mhm.
without all of the gunk in the way. I mean, is that
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
let me know how it
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
Well, in the beginning, I would have thought it would be completely necessary to put someone in my chair and guide them into a deeper theta state, right? That's classic,
Yeah. Theta.
mainstream hypnosis. And there's nothing wrong with that, and it's very powerful, and I absolutely use those tools and techniques. But what I've discovered over time through a lot of advanced training and a lot of wrapping my brain around how do I reach really smart and resistant people, right? This kind of hypnosis, I'll tell you right now, people say, can I be hypnotized? Well, yes, you can. There's four levels or depths within theta. And
Mm,
the bigger question is like, how deep can we go? That's a whole nother podcast. But what I can tell you is the purpose of hypnosis is to resolve subconscious conflicts. So, Derek, it's the things that hover beneath the surface of our awareness, right, that
mm,
are keeping us stuck. And so there's so many ways to there's many different methods or ways that a hypnotist or even a spiritual coach can help people access the subconscious mind. And it doesn't have to be with your eyes closed, believe it or not, contrary to popular belief. But I do help my clients learn self hypnosis and mystical meditation techniques. And here's why, right? This would look like more of the classic hypnosis, but it's spiritual hypnosis. And here's what happens. I'm most interested in helping my clients be able to deactivate the primitive mind, right? That's the fight or flight component of the mind, right? That is, overthinks everything, that is, that clings to familiar patterns, that challenges or kicks out any new information because it doesn't feel safe. But at the same time, in this deeper state of theta, I can also help my clients activate the higher mind. That's the infinitely wise part of the mind that exists in all of us that actually is very grounded, um, very focused, very solution oriented, and knows exactly what to do. And so much of this process is, if we were to use the script based mainstream hypnosis, it would be me feeding, um, feeding positive thoughts into the mind when you're in a state of heightened suggestibility, right? But I love this newfangled way of helping my clients hypnotize themselves. So what they're being fed is wisdom from their own higher mind and their soul. To me, that is such a transformative approach to helping people heal. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if Amy the therapist is feeding Derek the best version of what I think you should do, it's received in a totally different way than if I were to help Derek be able to access his own inner wisdom,
Mm,
right? Or connection to spirit, and allow that higher wisdom to be able to kind of sift through the layers of the mind and settle in to the body on the deepest cellular level. So there's so much that happens. And in these deeper theta states, Derek, we can go beyond. This is mind blowing. We can go beyond the subconscious mind and reach trauma at the deepest cellular level. And
mm.
through a very beautiful interactive process, I can help my clients release these, stuck energies from a cellular level and recalibrate to a higher frequency. The frequency, for some people, it's the frequency of the divine self. For other people, it's, higher power or divine source. So there's a lot that happens in this space. And I wouldn't have necessarily known this, Derek, if I didn't have this connection to spirit, and if I hadn't spent the last 10 years doing a deep dive and experience, getting all this feedback from my clients of, gosh, Amy, maybe I need to take some clients even deeper. And what is the outcome of that versus using more of a mainstream approach?
Right. So I'm trying to understand in the practice, you're helping people self-hypnotize
Yeah,
themselves and
yeah.
yeah, so and
Uh-huh.
in their self-hypnotist
Mhm.
state, they're
Mhm.
able to access parts of themselves that normally they wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to. That's what we're
Completely.
saying. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
exactly right. Right? It's
Yeah.
the most authentic version of themselves. And I'm not saying that isn't, I'm definitely bringing through questions and observations or energies from spirit. But it's really more than anything else, it's an inner dialogue that they're having, with themselves or with spirit.
Mm,
And I'm sharing what's coming through, but there's some white noise and some quiet space for people to kind of process and feel whatever it is higher mind, soul, or spirit wants to bring through.
mm. And how do you decipher when that dialogue is an actual dialogue
Mhm,
with their
mhm.
higher self or spirit and not
Yeah,
just a projection of mm, what they think they should be or what they want to be.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because I
yeah.
move in
Me
the I move in these medicine spaces quite a bit, and
Mhm,
a lot of people say the plants told me to do this,
mhm,
and in many cases, they're using the plants to actually fortify their own desire
right.
for something. And it's
Yeah,
usually when the plants tell you something, when you know it's true, is when they tell you something that you go, "Oh, that can't be true." That's usually when it's true.
yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. Well,
Yeah.
that's brilliant. I mean, that's when I say, that's when the wisdom comes through you versus from you.
Mm,
There's a difference. I believe, in learning, the principles and practices of mystical meditation, which is about journeying inward and connecting with the higher self and source, when we're in more of a surface level of meditation or even self hypnosis, clients will, they'll see colors, bursts of colors, and movement of colors. When we go in a little bit deeper, Derek, people will oftentimes see symbols or just random images that move through their awareness. When we go even deeper, people will start to see like snippets of scenes of things. Again, they can't always make the connection of what they're being shown, but if we go to the deepest level of the mind where the mystics go, now we're experiencing everything as if it is happening now, right? All the clairs are open: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. And, even in the surface level of theta, one could certainly argue, as I would, there's some very, very good um, therapeutic self-healing benefits to that. But depending on what we're working on, are we working on deep trauma? I would definitely want to take somebody to the deepest level. Somebody wants to use hypnosis in replace of anesthesia or pain medication, I definitely want to take them to the deepest level. And so, I mean, you're trained when you do this work long enough, you notice nonverbal patterns, but also you're getting verbal feedback from clients. And, you know, you'll know that they're connecting with spirit or higher self or higher power because it's pretty emotional. People have a lot of things to release. They're being shown. I use spirit team who guides me in my work. And so it to me, gosh, I mean, there's no greater ability to get closer to, root causes and see snippets of memories that are poignant to whatever my client is going through in the here and now. Karmic debt or past life memories or even things going on in this lifetime that are keeping them stuck or creating some sort of blocked energy or inner stirring. So when I work with the spirit team and guiding people, to those memories or those traumas or whatever it is that's going to shine a light on where the healing work needs to be done, there's no mistaking that for that inner chatter that we hear when we're in a fully conscious state.
mm, beautiful. I'd love to shift a little bit to the mediumship,
Yeah.
work because I mean, that goes beautifully with what you're already presenting, and, I'm really interested in that veil. In some of my experiences, I've been in trance states and even even been possessed
Uh-huh.
by spirit, and it's usually aided by plants. So I'm, in a very um, open state, right? And I can maneuver in that space very beautifully. But I've always been interested in how to manifest or develop those skills outside of the
Sure.
ceremony space. And I'm just interested
Mhm.
in, you know, your mediumship skills, but also what are some things that you did in the early days to
Mhm.
help open that channel for
Mhm.
yourself?
Mhm. Well, and that's a wonderful question, Derek. And I also will say, I have no experience in plant assisted ceremonies, although I love learning about it, and I've brought people on my podcast to talk about that to educate me and my listeners. because I understand, plants can be such a beautiful. I work with the Native American community, and it's such a beautiful part of sacred ceremony, and a lot of it is intentionality. Well, it's the same thing with mediumship, Derek. I wrote a book recently, Whispers Beyond the Veil: Channeled Teachings Inspired by the Spirit World, and I actually talk about the mediumship practice of sitting in the power. And I love that the wisdom that came through didn't overcomplicate things and make it seem like we have to be this super high frequency and walking, this mystical life that it's drilled down to. I in the beginning have always felt, you hear religion, the chosen one, and I call, BS on that. I say it's the willing one. It's
Mm,
a discipline just like learning anything else, and it doesn't need to be fancy, and you don't necessarily have to be in an altered state to connect with spirit. I mean, you could be on a hike, you could be washing the dishes. A lot of mediums get like their best downloads in the shower or brushing their teeth. It's just when we have this, when we go into a natural state of hypnosis all the time. The common one is when we're driving and we're lost in our thoughts and we're thinking, "Oh my gosh, where am I? What city am I in? Did I miss my exit?" Or we're just working on something and we're in autopilot, doing something we do every day, but our mind is elsewhere. We're doing this out of body experience or time travel and don't even recognize it. So I have on my YouTube channel a candle meditation. Um, I'll make sure to send that to you in an email, but it's not a hypnosis tool. I learned it in metaphysics. And to me, it is one of the most mind blowing tools that I could ever show or teach anyone in order to help them drop into a natural organic theta state. And within minutes, I've seen people with horrible ADHD, people who have always been using um, plant therapy for, anxiety and ADHD, and even are on, multiple, psychotropics or anti-anxiety.
mm,
you know, they teach the candle, they learn the candle meditation. They're like, like, Amy, it's improved my sleep. And, I've been doing it every day. And at 12 minutes, six if you're really ADHD. And it's totally fine. It's totally fine, but it's just practice, Derek. We're exercising parts of our, mind that are or brain that are dormant. We don't It's like going to the gym. You wouldn't go once and go, "Woohoo, I'm in great shape, I'm done." Well, it's same with meditation. And again, I teach mystical meditation because I believe in our ability to heal ourselves. And that's the best way to quiet that chattery part of our mind. And when I do sitting circles, I am a evidential medium and a physical medium, so I manifest physical evidence of the spirit realm. They come in the form of light beings and energies that fly through my space, sometimes apparitions or symbols or signs from the ether or sounds from the etheric realm. But every single time I sit with this very, very gifted, high frequency group, filled with people from every spiritual background, we start with the candle meditation. And it is so beautiful when you do this with a group of people, Derek, because all of these incredible high frequencies meld together and they draw in the spirit realm. And we can have, similar experiences. Like there might be six or eight of us, and most of us are feeling these sensory nuances ringing in our ear, or some of us may be seeing mist coming up from the floor or coming down from the ceiling. But anybody can teach it. We are all mediumistic. We all can drop into these deep trance states unassisted by any substances, and it's magnificent. And again, I would say start with the and this book takes you through the process. Derek, it talks about
Hmm,
how when we simply close our eyes and ask spirit, come closer. I mean, it's just that simple. And then we sit and we listen and we wait. And a lot of times, Derek, and this is so counterintuitive, we're sitting in these deeper states and we expect this wisdom or download to come in the form of a lightning bolt. And I just giggle. That's so human. There's no such thing as time, right? In the spirit realm, a lot of times is these aha moments or these spirit communications happen between meditations, between sessions, you know?
beautiful,
And so
beautiful.
but we're priming the pump. We're just saying, "Hey, I'm open. I'm available. Come closer." We can't demand, what type of wisdom is
Hmm.
downloaded or the timing of that. So I hope that debunks some myths about connecting with spirit.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that there's a group that you bring in for your sessions,
Mhm,
of spirit guides.
mhm,
Is it just generally, is there any particular guides that you bring in? Are you connected
mhm.
to,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
specifics? Yeah.
Yeah, and so, in this book, this is kind of a fun and wild story. I'll give you the short version. I was actually in a huge workshop back in the spring with mediums from all over, and I did a trance medium exchange session with this beautiful woman, originally from Philadelphia. We had never met before. In fact, I didn't know a single soul there. And boy, it was so, so powerful, this exchange that we did. And something really, energies were moving through me. I felt like I released something and then some new higher frequency came in. Well, I left that, conference in Florida on a Sunday at 2 in the 2 it was, like, between 2 and 3 in the morning, this new spirit awakened me, and interestingly, it was a spirit, I didn't know during her time here on the earth plane. I hadn't studied under her. She was a medium and a helper healer. However, interestingly, the woman who did the trance healing exchange had been studying under her for 3 years, the last year of which this medium had passed. So she passed, I believe, in 2022. So she comes to me in the evening hours, which is the seems to be the ongoing pattern for the last 10 years. I'm awakened by a knock or, some cool air that, sprays me and wakes me up. But she began to speak to me and download information. She identified herself. I don't identify her in the book for many reasons. She said that was wonderful. That was part of the plan, not to disclose who she is. But what a beautiful deep soul connection we have. And so little did I know, I didn't know I was writing a book. It turned out to be an automatic writing piece where she would download for anywhere for 30 minutes to an hour. She would share some wisdom, followed by me sitting at my computer screen, and she would move through me and type for me the messages she wished for me to share. And then later on, Derek, the book came out in August, and shortly thereafter, she revealed herself as part of my spirit team. the head of this 4 soul team that would assist me in my seances. And so she's been with this. I hand select the group of clients slash students who I think are extraordinary light workers, and they come to me with these incredible gifts, and I do what's called a frequency match, and I ask spirit to choose for me the energies that will meld most beautifully and be able to strongly connect us with this spirit team. So it's been a lovely, lovely journey and adventure for all of us.
Beautiful. That sounds amazing.
Oh,
Do
thank you.
you have any, protection practices as
Yeah,
you kind
sure.
of, maneuver through this landscape? Not
Uh-huh.
all spirits are friendly, I've come to
Yeah.
learn. And so
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you have anything you do in these spaces as part of your protection,
Mhm.
when you're working and opening those channels.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Derek, from the beginning of time, this work that I am doing, I use Palo Santo wood. Spirit downloaded right after my near-death experience a chant. I ask, essentially, I say, Father, Mother, God, please remove any lower frequency energies from me or my space. If I know what they are, Derek, in other words, I've had a client in my space that's struggling with addictions or anger or grief from the loss of a loved one, I'll just call out whatever it is. And then I ask Spirit, please remove any lower frequencies I'm not aware of. And then I burn, I love Palo Santo wood. Right? I mean, it removes negative energies, but it also, I believe, holds a very high frequency, a sacred frequency that recalibrates the energy of a space. And so, I move in a counterclockwise fashion around the perimeter of my space. I also say a prayer. I mean, my clients, again, some are Buddhists, some are atheists, some are, and I honor all paths. To me, it's Father, Mother, God. I say a prayer, let this be a place of light and love, of hope and healing for all who enter the space, come to know the frequency of the higher self, and higher power. Um, and I've been doing this. I do it between every single client. I have fragrances. I burn incense. I light candles. I spend at least an hour every day in a deep trance state, connecting with my spirit team so that they can give me directives, anything they need or want me to know about that day, my path, the client's path. And I simply sit in it's called sitting in the power. And so I don't fear people will come to me if if they feel they have attachments, or possessions, however you want to call, or walk-ins. um People will call me to remove um unsettling energy out of their homes. I've been doing that for years in the work of paranormal. I can't tell you, for some strange reason, and I think this is because of my near death experience and connection with, I believe, God source, is I don't fear those energies. I don't feel that they're attracted to me or my space. And many of my clients, even first-time clients, say, "Amy, I don't know what it is about your space, but people walk into my space and they can feel their anxiety is lowered. Sometimes they'll just sit in my chair out in my other room and just start weeping, because it's spirit filled, And, I'm full of love. I'm here to love. It's just that simple.
Mm,
So I like people not to fear those energies because our high frequency energy and the energy of, higher source, divine source, whatever you want to refer to it as, is so much more powerful than any lower frequency energy you or I or anyone could ever encounter.
absolutely, and I just wanna voice that yes, your practice is very deep though, and it's also
Mhm,
part of what creates that space, just what you
mhm,
told me, the prayer and the Palo Santo and, all of those things are really, providing spirit to come through in a very clear way, and
mhm.
so, I'm glad I asked the question because
Yeah,
I think many people don't understand, there's nothing to fear. It's not a fear-based practice. In many ways, it's an honoring practice. I'm showing reverence for the
yeah.
unseen world that's around me, and
Mhm,
they love the smell of the Palo Santo, and they love a candle that's burning, and they love the flowers that I put on my altar, right? All those things
mhm.
are honoring practices, and in
Yeah.
return, that relationship is clearing the space and keeping it clean.
Mhm,
And so,
yeah.
yeah, that's beautiful. And I love the prayer that you said.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Absolutely. And again, Derek, it is so much. It is, in our work, any type of helping healing work, it is, it's remaining humble at all times. Spirit, it's in allowing spirit, creating a space for spirit to move through us. I really believe that, and strengthening that relationship with source, however you understand it, and your spirit team, they're here to do magnificent work, and people like you and I were the conduit. And I also always ask in my prayer to remove any unnecessary distractions. I mean, we're
mm,
we're souls in human form, right? Things happen. Computers get cranky, or you may have something going on in your personal life or in your body that's very distracting. And I very humble in, my gratitude and appreciation, because the work we do is the highest honor. It is a very sacred and humble role, and, once we approach this with reverence and respect, and without, involving the egoic mind, I think what comes through is, is so authentic to our path, and the intention of how it's supposed to be expressed, through our work.
I love that. Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share? I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but
Oh
yeah,
gosh, well,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Derek, I appreciate, your perspective and your work. And your insights. You know, I think what I want to share with, listeners or viewers is that, we all have these gifts. We are all mediumistic. We all have the ability to go into these deeper, altered, and sacred, states, and receive higher wisdom. And even many of my clients, I believe, even the ones who carry the highest frequency, they're not working as, doctors or nurses or psychiatrists or therapists. They're not working in, alternative healing as a naturopath or a chiropractor or whatever. However, I recognize their frequency, and I know that, as they work as an engineer or they work as a, financial advisor or as they work as regional manager of a supermarket, that there is no doubt in their mind or to the depths of their soul that they're there to love, to serve others in the most humblest of ways and to be a beacon of light. And so I just want to say, people will tend to downgrade, their when I point out like, wow, your aura, your frequency bowls me over, and they'll say, oh yeah, I just manage a computer company. And I'm like, whoa, 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 right? And then we dig into their story a little bit more. And, they're doing all kinds of amazing and beautiful acts of kindness and the depth of the relationships that they're building in their work teams and just their positive, uplifting attitude or their paternal nature is, I mean, the most powerful form of healing that you can bring to the earth plane. So again, I like to debunk the myth that, you have to have this, mystical title or all of these credentials in the healing arts to be, a powerful healer on the earth plane. So I think that's my message that I'd like to leave people with.
I love that, and I think the greatest skill we can all carry is love, and
Mhm.
love for ourselves and love for the earth, love for each other, and that doesn't require any title, right? It just requires an open heart
It
and, you
it
know
is. It's
yeah.
so true, and Derek, the funny thing is, I mean, here I am. I mean, I'm doing what I love to do, but it's so humble. I work out of a basement of my home. I mean, I love it. It looks, it looks like a cabin. There's a little roaring fire and things, but it's so incredibly down home. It's so unclinical. I've got snacks for my clients that, if they're retired and they want to come at 7:30 in the morning because they've done that for the last 40 years. You know what? I've got coffee waiting for you. And, we got a couple hours to unpack whatever it is you're wanting to work on. So I never want to lose that approach to healing because I think we live in a world that's lost that personal touch and that humble approach. And my clients get hugs, they get journals, they get, you know, um,
Hugs, I'll
birthday
take the
gifts.
hugs.
And yeah, just all the things, especially if they've been with me a long time, and I know them on a deeper level. So.
Beautiful, and if somebody wants to, have a call with you and check you out, where should people find you?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, for now, sensoriumhypnosis.com. And I say that because I am on the cusp of changing my my business name, but I will make sure that it's going to be changed in the new year to Critical Mindset Group, and there's a
Mm,
strategic reason for that. Or reason for that. I've been working a lot with corporate people, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, and I'm really pivoting a little bit. I mean, I'll still work with my existing client base who does maintenance work, but I'll be bringing a lot more of my work into the corporate arena and offering retreat programming and that kind of stuff. And then the other, I don't know if you can see maybe this beautiful artwork behind
yeah.
me. I have a beautiful, beautiful friend who came into my life not so long ago, and she's a spirit artist and a psychic and a medium. And the two of us are going to do spirit infused interior design work together. And the company is called Two Mediums by Design. So the website's not live yet, but people will be able to find me there after the first of the year. So
Great, and I can update the show notes once you have all those live, so
thank
people can
you.
click right to them, and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Great.
been such a
Thank you.
pleasure to get to know you and, yeah,
Mhm.
just hear about your story, and, when I first got your email, I could feel I could feel the love,
Mhm.
behind it. It's interesting how you
Oh.
can feel the energy of someone,
Mhm.
and the words they use and the way they speak, and yeah, it's
Mm.
just a pleasure and honor to speak with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Derek. Your
You're
show is
welcome.
amazing. Your energy is amazing. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate the people who tune in to these subjects in this podcast. I created it to share part of my world, and I just want you to know I have much gratitude. I would love it if you followed and subscribed to the podcast so that you could receive all the beauty that's coming your way. Take a moment and please leave a quick review. It would really help the podcast spread and would also let me connect with the people that are listening. I would love to build this community in a very mindful way. And by leaving a review, you help me understand who you are and if you like it. Wishing you a wonderful day. And I look forward to our next podcast together. Hausch, hausch.